Mr. Speaker.
I call the Right Honourable Winston Peters, Leader, New Zealand First.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa, and warm Pacific greetings. It's a privilege to welcome our esteemed guests to this significant event and meeting. It's hoped by this way we will strengthen New Zealand's relationship with the Pacific region and the countries and peoples within it. The populated Pacific region is extraordinarily large, encompassing about a quarter of the world's surface. Now, the populations may be low, but they're high in resources, and it is, after all, our backyard and our neighbourhood. Your presence here today is a timely reminder that one value we share as a region is a commitment to democratic values. It might be painful and difficult, but we do believe that we should elect the people that represent us. The record's not perfect and the failures stand out, but today provides us all with a chance to look past the failings, discuss what went wrong and plan for the future. On behalf of New Zealand First, that's the People's Party, by the way, in this country, my colleague Lole Asnara Taylor, welcome to you all and thank you for coming. This region is one of rich culture, landscapes and natural wealth. It is a region known for its striking artworks, its strong, proud people. It's a region of great potential. These resources held here hold the promise to generate adequate sources of income for the Pacific if it's handled right, whether it be in relation to agriculture, horticulture, tourism, or critical areas such as fishing and the fishing resource. Pacific countries and people in the Pacific realise and recognise this fact, and acting to secure their people a prosperous future in the 21st century, this region is fast becoming a platform for other small island states around the world to learn from. We play an important role in the Pacific region, and we have, of late, I am very pleased to say, over the last 10 years, realised that we should spend far more of our foreign aid in our area where we know the people than in far-flung areas where we've got no idea where it's going. Now, I think we're probably all united on that. We have about 300,000 Pacific people in this country, and New Zealand needs to play its part to ensure that Pacific people receive the means to be self-reliant and self-sufficient. Aid should be seen as an investment. We recognise that our Pacific neighbours are proud people, and we recognise that aid is not a handout, it's a hand-up. And above all, my party, for one, recognises that when dealing with the Pacific, you're dealing with people who are in every way your equal. And many have been here for millennia. It is New Zealand's interest to see a flourishing Pacific region. We understand that poverty and social ills leads towards political and social unrest. We want a stable region that is prosperous, with strong trade links and a strong diffusion of ideas. And if someone suggests to you that the aid thing is not quite right, remember the fact is that for every $1 or $10 that we export, $1 is coming back. The ratio, with respect to your people, is 10 to 1. And we have no trading relationship that has that percentage of benefit for this country as it is with the Pacific people. If we had that ratio around the rest of the world, we'd be enormously rich. And we need to address that when we're explaining why aid is important in this part of the world. We want a geopolitical sense. The Pacific region is fast becoming an area of competing influence, and it's a sense of disquiet that one has. This is in part to the region's proximity to Asia, natural resources, and a number of votes in the United Nations. And we all know how seductive it is to be taken down the main drag in China with motorbikes all in front and motorbikes all behind and treated like you're a god. But it reminds me of the old saying that the new Caesars used to be told when they were appointed in the old Roman days. There was always a person deputed to run by their side and every now and again say, "Remember, you're only a man. Remember, you're only a man." That seductive experience in the Pacific with Asia has to be carefully handled. Don't worry, I've got colleagues like that myself who get totally carried away when they go overseas. and forget their roots lie in their own country. Can I just say, oh, no, I'm a Pacific person. Our roots here go back 1,000 years, just in case any of you were not certain of that. Now, the issues facing countries in the Pacific might be similar, whether this be climate change, the retention of resources, and pollution and environmental degradation. It's up to New Zealand to ensure that we undertake aid, assistance and development does not come at the expense of local people, customs and culture. There is a Pacific way, and it's not wrong, and it should be defended. And one of those things about the Pacific way is that their institutions need to be recognised. I've always, for example, believed in the Council of Leaders and Chiefs in Fiji. They should not be set aside. They should be, as any wise nation would understand, and that goes for the rest of the Solomon, Vanuatu and other places, where there's a chiefly role that the people do respect. And we should seek to modernise our constitutional approach to understand that. We must look to uphold and respect the cultural as well as the political boundaries of our neighbours. Now, there's just one thing I want to say, and that is this. There is a need all over the world, and it's included in New Zealand, for politicians to be seen to be accountable and transparent. No one is immune from this. I can remember being offshore with a foreign minister, I won't say which country, but it was in the Solomon Islands, and he was berating the local administration. And I said to him, look, I don't want to be in the same room if you've forgotten your own history. Don't you remember State Bank of South Australia, Rothwell's Bank, or that 3 premiers in Western Australia got done over under Western Australia Inc. Don't preach to these people who know about your history. And I don't want to be in the room representing my country when you do that. Back to my point. We need to understand that accountability and transparency is in everyone's interest. And I know that there's a Pacific feeling, because it's very endemic in Maoridom too. And it goes like this. If you can't help your own, then who can you help? And that is the seed of so much nepotism and corruption, but it is a very, very understandable cultural phenomenon that we have to, in the interest of the people we represent, fight against. It's extraordinarily difficult because your people expect you to have some understanding of the saying, blood is thicker than water. But that said, it's government and it's a privileged issue, and we need to strive against it. I want to say that the increased dialogue between our countries is of benefit to all. 2 of us recently were at a Council for Public Accounts meeting in Australia last week, and we found it enormously beneficial that Pacific countries were there, and some African countries were there, but many of us from Australia and New Zealand had plenty to learn ourselves. A gathering of representatives from across the Pacific not only allows for the bettering of relationships and the sharing of ideas, it allows for greater scrutiny of how we are progressing together. For my part, the New Zealand First Party seriously believes in the Pacific relationship. And we believe that is a special relationship with a capital S. Now, while you're here, you're going to meet all your relations, and many of them are going to say to you, which party should we vote for? I suggest you say to them, well, first of all, get on the roll, and then vote for the one party that understands Pacific people, that party being New Zealand First. And I can promise you, without any fear of contradiction, if you all do that, we'll all be better off very soon. Kia ora tātou.
Mr. Speaker,
I call the honourable member John Hayes.
Thank you, Mr.